Okay, here we are on our last formula for the unit, and we are going to do spheres. And a sphere is basically just a ball of some sort. And our formulas here for volume and surface area. For our volume, we are going to have 4 pi r cubed. So notice that this is cubed, not squared, so we're going to have to make sure we know how to deal with that. And then, as always, anytime we have a pi, it's going to be 3.14. And then also, just like when we did cones and pyramids, we will divide by 3. Okay, so that's how we find our volume. And then our surface area is pretty basic. We have 4, and again, that 4 is always there. It's part of the formula. Pi is always going to be 3.14, and our radius is going to be squared. So if you notice, the volume has a cubed radius, and the surface area has a squared radius. So let's just go ahead and practice a couple of these using our formula. So we have our volume of this sphere, or this ball, that has a 2-inch radius. So our radius in this case is 2. So we are just going to look at our formula, and our volume is going to be 4 times pi times our radius cubed, which is going to be 2 cubed. And all of that is going to be divided by 3. And just a reminder from yesterday, if we want to do 2 to the 3rd power on our calculator, we do 2. We hit the little caret button, and that will put a little square right up in here, and we put the 3 in the little square. And that will give us 2 to the 3rd. If you're putting this all in as one equation, make sure you arrow out of the exponent before you divide by 3. So when we go ahead and we place that into our calculator, 4 times 3.14 times 2 caret to the 3rd, arrow out of our exponent, and then divide by 3, we should get 33.5. Erase this over here. 33.5, and we are in volume, so we are going to be cubed, so we would have inches cubed. So we would be at 33.5 inches cubed. Surface area, okay, we got our formula up there. 4 times pi times our radius squared. No dividing by 3 or no division or anything this time. We're just multiplying straight across. 4 times 3.14 times 2 squared would be 50.24. And again, this is surface area, so we'd be in inches squared. Okay, and then just another little practice here, just noticing that this is not the radius, this is the diameter. It goes all the way across. So in this case, our radius is not 10, our radius is half that, which is 5. So we would have our volume is going to be 4, that's always there. Pi, that's always there. Our radius cubed divided by 3. And again, when we do that, make sure if you are going to enter it all in at one time, you arrow out of the exponent before you divide by 3. And we should get 523.3, and we are in volume, so it would be millimeters cubed. And with our surface area, 4, that guy's always there, times pi, 3.14, times our radius squared. So 4 times 3.14 times 5 squared is going to be 314, and we are in surface area, so it would be millimeters squared. Okay, so there's our sphere, our formula for our spheres, and now we're going to do what we have been doing with most of our other different three-dimensional shapes. This was the basic, just plug it into the formula and calculate it on your calculator. Next, we are going to go the other way. So this time I'm going to give you the volume, and you're going to have to find the radius. Okay, so I'm going to really quick here write our formula with no substitutions. 4 pi r cubed divided by 3. Well, it says our volume, that's our V, is going to be 1,436 0.03. And we don't know our radius. That's the only other variable that's in here. So we have 4 times 3.14 times our radius cubed, all divided by 3. Okay, so I'm going to do two things here at the same time. First of all, I'm going to multiply by 3 on both sides to undo the divided by 3. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm also going to multiply these two guys together. We could do them in separate steps, but I'm going to go ahead and do them at the same time. So 1,436.03, when you multiply that times 3, we are going to get, let's see, 4,308.09. We're just going to keep these decimals in here so that it works out a little bit better. And then that 4 times 3.14 is 12.56 r to the third. Now we're just back to solving like we normally have before, where we are going to divide both sides by 12.56. We are not doing anything with that cubed or anything just yet. That'll be our very last step. So we're going to divide by 12.56. And we are going to get 343, I think it's 343.000 something. So we're going to call it 343 is our radius cubed. Now on your calculator, you have an actual button that's a square root button. That is not the button that we are going to use. In order to find the cube root button, okay, because to undo a square, we use a square root. To undo a cube, we use a cube root. So we're looking for this button that has a little 3 right here. And to find that, all we have to do is go push our math button. And again, our math button is right below our green button on the graphing calculators. So we're going to hit the math button. And when you hit the math button, it'll bring up, this is on the graphing calculators, it'll bring up a whole menu. And number 4, it should say cube root. So that would be on the graphing calculators. Okay, so on our graphing, hang on, this would be graphing, the big yellow calculators. If you have a smaller yellow calculator that a lot of us have, if you look, you're going to hit the green button, which is the second, which is in green, and then you are going to hit the caret button, because if you look right above the caret button, it has a little button that looks like this, where it has a little X, and then it has a little looking thing kind of like that. So on the smaller graphing or the smaller yellow calculators, you would hit the second and the caret. But in order to get a cube root, the order that you have to do it is you're going to need to, let's make sure we highlight this. So if you have one of the smaller yellow calculators, okay, first thing you need to do is hit what root you want. We want a third root. Okay, because we want a cube root, so we're going to hit the 3 button, and then we are going to hit the second, the green second button, and then we're going to hit the caret, and what that'll do is it'll put a 3, that number you just put in there, and it'll go like this. And then what you can do is you can type whatever number you want the cube root of underneath of there. And so in this case, we want the cube root of 343, which is going to be 7. So again, on the graphing calculators, all you have to do is hit the math button and the 4 in order to get that cube root. On the yellow calculators, you have to hit the root that you want. In this case, it's always going to be 3 because we're always taking the cube root. Hit the second button and then enter what you want to take the cube root of. And the smaller blue calculators will do basically the same thing as the smaller yellow calculators. So they have a little bit different directions on how do you find a cube root, but still very possible. So let's look at another one here. The volume of a sphere, again, we have our volume is going to be 7,234.56. We're going to leave those decimals in there. We've got 4 times pi times r to the third over 3. Okay, so again, the first thing I'm going to do is those 2 steps at once, where I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. And I'm also going to put these two guys together. So 7,234.56 times 3 is going to be 21,703 12.68. And then when we multiply 4 times 3.14, it's still the same thing. It's 12.56. And we still have r to the third, so we're going to divide both sides by 12.56. And we should get 1,728 equals r to the third. Again, on our graphing calculators, we're going to hit math 4, number 4. On our smaller calculators, we're going to hit the 3 because that's the root that we want. And then we're going to hit the second button and the caret, and we're going to put in 1728 and hit enter. Okay, and when you take the cube root, either way, you're going to get the same answer. You should get that the radius is 12. Okay, second thing we're going to do is a hemisphere. Exact same thing as a sphere, except it's half. Hemisphere means half. So all we are going to do is we are going to take that formula. So the formula that we had before was 4 pi r to the third. And we're just going to multiply it by a half. Okay, so we're going to do the exact same idea here. We're going to have 0.5 times 4 times 3.14 times our radius. In this case, our radius is 4.5 to the third power divided by 3. We're not solving for the radius. We are just, these first two examples, we are literally just plugging the number in and calculating what our volume would be. And again, this part of it right here, this is the exact same thing that we did for the whole, oops, this part too, is for the whole sphere. This half right here means that we only want half of it. Another way to think about it is you could do all of the blue, get an answer and divide by 2, like that's the same thing. But if we just want to put it all in our calculator at once, we can do it this way. And if we put that all into our calculator all at one time, we should get 190, oops, 190.755. So we're going to round that to 190.8, and it would be volume, so we are in centimeters cubed. Okay, and we are not going to do the surface area of a hemisphere because depending on whether or not you want to include this flat part on the top as part of your surface area, or if it's a hollow bowl kind of a thing, kind of can change on how your surface area is. So we're just going to do volume. Okay, so let's just really quick do one more volume question here. So we have half of our whole thing, which is 4 times 3.14 times our radius cubed, all of that divided by 3. So when we put that into our calculator, we should get 3,895.4 millimeters cubed. Oops, there we go. Okay. I'm going to do just like we did with the other ones. Now I'm going to give you a volume and you're going to have to find a radius. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, last two questions here. I'm giving you the volume. Okay, so I'm giving you, again, here's our whole formula. Is going to be volume equals half of 4 pi r cubed over 3. Okay. So we are just going to plug things in. We're going to have to do that cube root in our last step again because we're finding our radius. Our volume is 452.16. And then we've got 0.5 times 4 times 3.14 times the radius cubed, all divided by 3. And again, kind of like when I did this before, I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to multiply by 3 on both sides. And the second thing I'm going to do is I am going to multiply these three things together. Okay. Excuse me. So when we multiply 452.16 times 3, we get 1,356.48. When we multiply those three coefficients together, half times 4 times 3.14, we get 6.28. So our 3's are gone, and then we still have a radius cubed. So we're going to go ahead and divide by 6.28 on both sides. Okay, and when we divide by 6.28, we're left with r to the third, and we get 216. So we're going to do the same thing, graphing calculators. We're going to hit math 4, and then if we have the smaller calculators, we're going to hit 3, caret, and 2/16. Either way, we get that the radius is 6. And again, it's a radius, and we are in miles, which is going to be our label. Okay, last but not least, we're going to do one more last question, which is 1,526.04 is half of 4 times pi r to the third divided by 3. 2 steps at once. We're going to multiply both sides by 3. Okay, and we are going to multiply our coefficients together. So 1526.04 times 3 is 4,578.12. 0.5 times 4 times 3.14 is 6.28 r to the third. Divided by 6.28, we are going to get 729 equals r to the third. Again, we need to take the cube root, just like we have on the other ones, and the cube root of 729 is 9. And again, since it is a radius, it is in centimeters, which apparently I can't spell centimeters, is in centimeters.